Hey guys, Buildzoid here, and this is replacing actually hardcore hardware news for this week because there's not really that many hardware releases, and instead, the news for today will mostly be related to the channel. So, first things first, I think everybody's noticed this. It's a lot shorter than it used to be, and the reason for that is quite simple. I could no longer see what I was doing or where I was going. So at that point, I decided it was a health hazard for me, and that would be detrimental to the channel, you know, if like I walked into the middle of a road and got run over. So it had to go. So it's gone. But I assure you, it will be right back to its completely impractical length in about 2 months. Well, in 2 months, it'll be the length I really like. And in about 6 months, it should be completely impractical. It might be sooner because I think this time I got my haircut done a bit longer than the last time I got rid of the ridiculous eye length hair I usually end up with. Because, yeah, I just sort of set out as like I don't like getting haircuts, so I have like this would be. So it basically works out that it's like almost 6 months between each one, and I think this time I've had it done longer, so it might only work out to 4 or 5 instead of the 6 that I usually aim for. But who cares? We'll deal with that when that comes. And I think I've just spent too much time talking about my hair, which is dumb because this channel is supposed to be about hardware. Even though this video isn't really going to be that much about hardware, it's just going to be more general channel stuff. Because we have hit 10,000 subscribers. And so as the, guy who runs the channel, solo, incidentally. Well, I do have some people helping in the background with things like parts acquisitions and running the live streams and stuff. But other than that, is like all the videos, it's just all on me. So I figured I would, since we've hit 10,000 subscribers, which is a milestone, which to me and like marketing departments for at hardware manufacturers is completely irrelevant because it's way too freaking small. But it is a milestone that's significant because there's a lot of zeros on the end of that number, and so I figured, you know what, I'll tell you where we're going with the channel, where the channel is headed, and that's what today's going to be about. But before we go into the details of where I'm going, I would like to thank you. Every single person who's watched one of my videos, every single person who's subscribed, every single person who has suffered through AdSense for me, because I recently enabled ads, and, well, it helps. It does actually bring in it's not a huge amount of money, but it does bring enough in to, like, cover a month's worth of LN2. Well, not even that, but it helps a little bit, so, every little helps. If I'm willing to have people donate $2 a month on Patreon, then what YouTube is giving me is actually like it wouldn't run the channel, but it's a good amount. So thanks to people who suffer through AdSense. Thanks to all the patrons, everybody who's ever bought a shirt, and everybody who's ever donated, because seriously, without you, I wouldn't be here, and this channel wouldn't be what it is right now. I wouldn't have this, right? And actually, speaking of this, I will thanks to all, like, after the Z270 and Wi-Fi video, a bunch of people, like a lot of new people started, like, became patrons, and I got a bunch of donations in, and so right now AHOC has enough budget to go and buy a Ryzen motherboard whenever I feel like it. The problem is there's no motherboards in the UK, or at least no motherboards I would actually want to buy, because everything available is just low-end B350 stuff, and there's a lot of stuff I want to cover on Ryzen, which I just can't do on a B350 board. Now, the plan is basically that there is some sort of talk about me getting a motherboard, a Ryzen motherboard like the Gigabyte Gaming K7, and that's still sort of in the works, so I might not have to buy my high-end board, in which case I'll use the budget that I now have for buying a B350, and we can do some stupid stuff on a 100-pound motherboard instead of like a 250-pound motherboard, which, a 100-pound motherboard I feel is a lot more relevant to a lot of viewers, and we can do some fun stuff on one of those. as well as on the high-end stuff, because I want to obviously cover as much as I can, and I don't, you know, like, yeah, whatever. It doesn't really need explaining. Makes sense. More hardware, more better. It's really that simple. So, that's that. And speaking of other good news as far as stuff coming in is, I've literally today finished off a correspondence over some very nice DDR4. So, like, I'm super excited to get to try this stuff out. That's going to be awesome. You'll be seeing it on live streams. I'll be using it a ton. I can't wait to get it. I'll finally do my, like, DDR4 overclocking video, because the problem is, all the DDR4 I currently have on hand is kind of eh. Actually, there's one kit which is pretty good, but then I have another kit, like, pretty good for low clock stuff. Like, I have a kit here that does 2800 at 10, CL10, pretty consistently. And actually, you can push it all the way down to CL9 at 2800, which is just insane. So that kit might work really nicely on Ryzen. Though I'm not sure, because Ryzen hates anything other than Samsung B-Die, and I know for a fact that that kit is not Samsung B-Die. However, the stuff coming in is Samsung B-Die, so that should work great for Ryzen. That should work great for, like, my Ryzen stuff, and it'll work great on my Z270 stuff as well, because that's literally what that kit of memory was designed for, and I can't wait to go over that. And I'm getting ahead of myself. Like, we'll have a whole video on that. Now, do note one thing. I am not the best overclocker as far as RAM goes. Like, really, I never really paid that much attention to RAM overclocking, because I either, like, on DDR3, I never really got a good memory kit, and I was never really that interested in spending a lot of money on a really good kit of memory. And even now, that's still the case, because personally, I've always more enjoyed, like, X99 or X79 and multi-GPU, you know, overclocking and single GPU, 3D Mark, Unigine Heaven, and that kind of thing, where memory isn't really much of a factor. So when, you know, you go out and you, like, B-Die right now, you're going to be paying 150 to 200 pounds for a kit of memory, and that's just, like, you can buy a GPU for that. So not a huge fan of that. So but I get why that's a thing. I mean, like, in some ways, buying really high-end RAM for overclockers makes more sense than what I do, where I buy a ton of GPUs, because at least from a points perspective. So, well, actually, like, again, getting ahead of myself here. We'll talk about it when I get the RAM, actually. So, yeah, other cool stuff coming up eventually. This is what, well, this isn't what happens when somebody sends me something and tells me to repair it, but they did send me something. Then somebody told, well, a friend sent me a HD 7870, which he bought on eBay for the cooler, so he didn't care about it. So he sent the card to me and told me, yo, the card artifact, like, you can't run it at stock clocks. You need to underclock it all the way to, like, 300 megahertz core and memory before it manages to do anything. And he told me, well, try fix it. And I'm like, cool. And, well, it ended up like one of these. So what is this? Well, this is an RX 480's VRM. That's literally what it is. So it's, you know, it has a SATA connector. The SATA connector for this provides 12 volts and 3.3 volts. The 3.3 volts being the white wire on this one. The red wire is 5 volts, and the brown wire is something that is completely irrelevant in this day and age. I think it's like spin-up signal or something like that. But yeah, so it provides 12 volts, 3.3 volts, and then I have a 6-pin for, you know, the main set of power. So basically, I'm not actually sure how much power this... The 6-pin provides 300 watts, I know that, but I'm not sure what the SATA connector can do. But yeah, basically, you plug this into a power supply, turn it on, and it spits out a voltage, like it would when it was on a GPU. So it's pretty much an e-power, except like, you know, the DIY version, because you can't buy e-power boards currently. And I do plan to, well, will be using this, and I do plan to, like, make a sort of guide thing about these. Not really sure, but here's a teaser anyway. And this does work, unlike my very first attempt with a motherboard VRM, which ended up horrifically. So that's something to be excited for in the future. I mean, we have so much stuff coming up, like literally. And speaking of stuff coming up, there's like, you know what's really bad for AHOC? Having a lot of content piled up on me. Like, if I know that there's a lot of stuff I want to cover, what happens is I go like, oh, there's so much stuff I could do. Let's not do any of it. That's a great idea, isn't it, Bill Zoid? So that often causes, the random dry spells of content, because I personally aim to now hit like one video a day. It's not impossible for me to do that. But a lot of the time, the problem is like, I'm not really sure what video I should do today. Should I do a PCB breakdown, or should I do a this or a that, and then we end up with, it's the end of the day, and I'm like, well, I'm not making anything because I got to go sleep. Sometimes, or like, well, I mean, I could make it while super tired, but I don't think anybody wants to listen to me yawning my way through a video. That's worse than me just rambling, I think. Because actually there'd be even worse rambling. Anyway. So that's sort of where the channel is heading, how stuff is going. And now I have some things that need to get sorted before they become bigger problems. Because, like, I know at the end of my videos, I always send me, you can contact me by email, over Facebook, over comments, over YouTube private messages, and you can contact me in all these lovely ways. And here's one thing I want to tell you, okay? You can contact me, but I am not a tech support help desk, okay? And it's not a huge problem right now. It's not like a ton of people are spamming me with tech support questions, but the thing is, I'm not a tech support help desk. If this channel keeps growing and you want me answering interesting stuff, or like, because the problem is I only have that much time in my day, right? And if people keep sending me messages that are basically stuff I don't want to deal with, nobody on the channel, like, there's no benefit to me doing your personal tech support questions. Like, I might answer it for you, and that doesn't help any of the other people. I'm not a tech support channel. I'm not going to make a video on how to fix every single freaking issue you can end up with on your computer. I don't even know how you would be able to force the computer to have those issues intentionally. So don't send me those kinds of messages, because they literally just eat up my time to answer other messages. And, like, because sometimes people send me messages where it's like, yeah, this would be a great topic for a video, and then I put it on the big pile of shit that should be a video, and it doesn't get done. But don't send tech support questions. It's really that simple. The other thing is, I get a lot of people asking me to repair stuff. I do not repair things, okay? I don't know if you haven't, like, I don't know where you got this idea that I can fix things. I don't know. Do you not watch my live streams? Usually how things go is, we turn the live stream comes on, whatever hardware I have turns on, and then it works. Then it works a little worse. Then it kind of stops working. Then it might start working again, and then it stops working completely, and I end the live stream there. I'm not capable. Like, I generally make things work less. Now, not work. I break things is what I'm trying to say. But like, could I fix things? Theoretically, yes. I could theoretically try fix things. Now, there's one minor issue with that. I don't have the equipment nor the information to actually be able to do that. That's like the equipment side of things, that's not that hard to sort, especially considering I've literally just had somebody send me somebody already sent me I think it was a comment or a message where they were offering to send me a hot air rework station, which that's exactly what you need for SMD work, which is what I lack currently. It's like I can't desolder anything that isn't a 2-terminal part. So I can desolder like capacitors, resistors, I can do chokes, I can pull off chokes, but I can't pull off any ICs. There's no chance I'm pulling off any ICs. Currently, the way, like, this has a cut right along a DRAM through where a DRAM chip was, well, a RAM chip was. The way I got that memory chip off was that I stuck a knife blade under it and leveraged it out. So I can't repair things with that kind of equipment restriction, that's and can't repair stuff. I can do, like, this is not repair. There's no fine soldering. There's no replacing broken parts on here. This is just a case of adding stuff in the easiest locations possible, mind you. So that's a lot of the e-power volt modding stuff is a case of know where you want to make your connections, because, well, my soldering skills are terrible. So I generally, like, 90% of my job is just figuring out where I want to solder. Not, like, what I'm soldering. It's just, like, where do we do it? Because if I do it near something that's really, really important, I'm probably going to break it. So there's an equipment problem, but the other problem that I said is I don't have the relevant information to do repairs. And that basically is a case of, like, I have a R9 380 here that doesn't work, and it doesn't work for a while. It's a card I had in the, like, for ages now, and I've always been telling myself, you know what, I'll repair it, because I know exactly what's wrong with that card, right? That's a huge benefit, and I even know where all the damage on that card occurred, because I caused all that damage, you know? That's a big advantage if you're trying to fix something, but I still don't know how to fix it, okay? Because I tried repairing it. That didn't work. I'm not sure why that repair didn't work. So the main issue I have is that card doesn't get VCore. Like, you plug in your 6-pin or 8-pin or whatever the hell it runs on. You turn the system on, and if you stab the card with a multimeter, the one thing you will notice is that there is no VCore. Why is there no VCore? Well, for the life of me, I couldn't tell you, because I don't have a schematic to tell me what the hell is, like, I know there's a few components missing, but I have no idea what they were, other than that they were like a capacitor, and I think a few resistors are missing, and it's like, I don't know what was supposed to be there. The capacitors are probably non-issue, but that resistor was important, because now it doesn't, like, resistors connect things. Capacitors generally just are used as decoupling, which basically means they sit between a voltage and ground and make sure, like, suppress AC interference and that kind of thing. But basically, something's missing. I don't know what it is. I have no idea how that voltage controller is wired. So if I wanted to repair that, it would be a case of, I would have to have the card running, stab every single pin on the voltage controller to figure out, like, does this pin have the voltage it should have? Does this pin have the voltage it should have? Does this pin have the voltage it should have? Does this pin... Until I find one, there's like 40 plus pins on that voltage controller. That's not a really fun thing to try do. That's like, you know, and if I had a schematic, it would be a case of, okay, so I can look up what those voltages should even be, because that's the other problem is, like, it's one thing to go and probe something and go, like, okay, so now I have information on what its current state is, but in its current state, it doesn't work. And I don't know what state I need to get it into to make it work. So without having schematics, it is really, really hard to repair stuff. Now, I do believe I can still get that R9 380 working, which is why I haven't scrapped it, because I can probably just replace the VRM at this point, because I do have another one of these, which works, and I might just replace the card's VRM at this point. I'm not really sure what I plan to do with that card, but, you know, if it's going to just keep sitting in a drawer, I can pretty much do whatever, because at that point, it's just wasting away, so to speak. So, you know, and that card, I know where the damage is localized. I know a lot about that card, so that's a huge advantage. Now, if you send me something in where there's no components missing, there's no visible, obvious damage on the thing, and it doesn't work, well, how do you think that's going to go if I'm trying to fix that? That's going to be ridiculously difficult. Like, ridiculously difficult. And GPUs are simple, relatively speaking. Like, they're not the most complex thing ever. Like, compared to a motherboard, there's not that much on a graphics card. You have a few VRMs, and those things either work or not. And then you have a few connections to the display outputs, and those either work or not. And there's not that much componentry there. And you have also, of course, the GPU core and the memory chips, but if one of those is damaged, you can give up right there and then, because you're not replacing it. Like, you're not getting a spare GPU core unless you want to go buy another GPU for whatever ungodly reason that makes sense to you. Pull the GPU off of that GPU, because we know that one's working, and move it onto the dead... Like, why would you do that? That's completely freaking stupid. Unless Unless the card that died has like the world's best PCB, in which case you could just take that PCB and convert it into this, right? That's still a better option than trying to swap the damn core on it. So, you know, I don't repair. I don't intend to repair. I'd like to, but realistically, it's not doable. And I think I waffled on, yeah, spent way too much time on that. So, one more thing regarding all the messages and comments and questions. Sometimes people ask me questions that I have an answer for that I don't need to give you in a comment. So we'll slide the camera to there because just the way I've arranged stuff. Bam! See this? This is the channel page. You can get to it by going to youtube.com/actually hardcore overclocking. For some reason, typing in /channel/actually hardcore overclocking doesn't work, but if you just put in a C, it does take you to the channel page. So anyway, this is the channel page. And I don't know if you haven't noticed, but there's a playlist of all the PCB breakdowns I've done for my own channel and for Gamers Nexus, because I do contract work for their channel. So if you go into that playlist, you can clearly see, so this is all mine. Gamers Nexus right there. There's another one that I did for Gamers Nexus. Another one for Gamers Nexus. Yeah. And as you go down that list, they steadily get worse. Because obviously when I was starting out, this channel sucked more than it does now. I mean, if it sucked more now than it did then I'd be doing something wrong, obviously. So that's not really that surprising. So that's the PCB breakdown playlist. That one's really nice. I'm happy with that one as is. Now, there is a rating methodology disparity. Like, I've recently really upgraded the way I treat the ratings, the current ratings for the VRMs, because in the past, it was just a case of I relied on whatever value was written on the data sheet, and then I went and read a really nice article about how to choose MOSFETs for VRMs, which detailed everything about like power loss and how the current rating, like the current ratings written into a data sheet are completely freaking useless. For 99% of applications. What you actually want to do is take information from that data sheet and do a bunch of calculations which then give you the losses that the MOSFETs incur in a VRM scenario, which gives you a very different look at what kind of current you are allowed to push through them. And so I've switched to that methodology recently, and I've been using that methodology for a while, for some time now, and I love that method. Like, that methodology is way better. The problem is, in the past, I wasn't using that methodology. Now, as far as actually talking about if a PCB is good or bad, it's still mostly correct. Like, there's no cards where I would say the video is completely wrong. It's just a case of the current ratings that I talk about in those videos are off by quite a bit. Like, they're not that, like, they're not great. So that's something to keep in mind if you watch those. I have considered just redoing all those videos, but if I wanted to do that, like, I'm not sure. If YouTube just let me like replace whatever video file is under that title, that would be what I would do. But with how YouTube works right now, I can't do that. So not going to do that. So that's the PCB breakdowns. Explained with Paint, which should really get renamed to Explained with GIMP, is a series where I explain stuff. And some of these videos are going to get a refresh because I don't like them or whatever. And some of these are fine. And some of them are not fine. Some of them are great. And a lot of them just like stuff. But basically, the two I really want to focus on are how VRMs work and how motherboards can get more phases than what the voltage controller supports. And I know that's a really long title, but there it is. And the reason why I want to focus on these because I get a constant flow of messages on my videos where people say, I have no idea what he's talking about. Well, I got great news for you. These two videos should answer those questions for you. Should. They probably don't, and I'm pretty sure that there's a third video sort of related to those that I want to do about VRMs, but I can't remember what it is right now. So once I figure out what that video is, then that'll go up too eventually when I figure out where I want to slot it in between all the other content. really a problem. Is like nobody organizes the content stuff, and yeah. Well, I said that before. It's like, do I do a PCB breakdown or do I do another explained with GIMP now? I really do prefer calling it explained with Paint because that just sounds better than GIMP. GIMP is such a stupid program name and a stupid program. Good luck editing anything in 5K on it. And then down at the very bottom, you have the overclocking live streams because, you know, you really, really want to sit through 2 hours, well, 3 hours, 4 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 2.5, 4, 2.5, 45-minute hours of me fighting with a computer to get, you know, some meaningless numbers in benchmarks. So that's also there, and you can watch that. So, slides the camera back into position, and I did not realize there was that water bottle was there. How the hell? Oh well. And there's shoes, but you can't actually see those, so that's fine. So yeah, that's sort of, you know, there's a bunch of videos you can watch if you don't. Yeah. Those exist, basically, is what I'm trying to get at. And what did I want to do next? Oh, right. So recently I've joined the Gigabyte March Madness competition. I talked about this in the Z270N-Wi-Fi video, and so I'll give you a little update on how that is going as soon as I switch the sites. So yeah, for those of you, and I forgot about the camera thing, move, there we go. So March Madness 2017, it's a Gigabyte competition, which means it's restricted to Gigabyte motherboards because it would look really bad if an Asus motherboard or an ASRock motherboard or an MSI motherboard won a Gigabyte competition, wouldn't it? So Gigabyte restricts this to only Gigabyte motherboards and only mainstream. So you can't use high-end desktop stuff. So no X99 or no X79. You can't use those. But you can use Z97, Z87, Z68, Z77, Z270, Z170, all of those. So you have a lot of options to, like, you know, basically mainstream. If you have a mainstream Intel CPU, you can join. Admittedly, if you don't have Kaby Lake or Skylake, you're not going to win, just because Kaby Lake and Skylake are a bit faster than everything else at 5 gigahertz. The competition is restricted to 5 gigahertz clock speed, and I should be on the overview page. Yeah, so it is 5 gigahertz limited, restricted, so you do have a chance of actually winning if you have good memory. If you have good memory on you, then you can actually win this, because this is very much a memory overclocking focused competition. And so far, for me, it's been going pretty good. Well, that's a lie. My ranking looks good, and I'm third with this submission right here. So, yeah. This is the result of several hours of work. I think it was like 3 or 4 hours that I spent messing with memory settings to get this score. And actually, there's another 3 hours I did right after I got the Z270 board, so it's like 6 hours combined work. And the problem is, it really is. Now, I'm actually pretty happy with where I got, because I started out, and when I started Time Spy Physics, which is the focus of this benchmark, was I was scoring about 6.5 thousand points in Time Spy Physics. And it actually, if I say, like, ignored any of my memory tweaking, then completely stock, the system was scoring about 6.4K. So, you know, decent increase in score from basically just memory overclocking, because I, you know, never actually ran the benchmark at anything other than 5 gigahertz. Praise Kaby Lake and its magical 5 gigahertz capabilities. Incidentally, that voltage right there on the CPU is not minimized. I haven't really bothered to check what the minimum voltage on the CPU, like what the CPU is able to run at. But yeah, so I did get it to score 6,600 pretty consistently. But the problem I have with Time Spy is there's a like 2% run to run variance. That's just completely random as far as I'm aware. And basically, it would go like I would boot into Windows, I would run Time Spy, the score would be lower than my previous best, so I would run Time Spy again, the score would go even lower. I'd run Time Spy again, the score would still be too low. I'd run it again and again and again and again. Eventually, I would decide, okay, you know what, screw this, go back into the BIOS, or instead of deciding to just give up at that point, the system would eventually, like, it would hit a section of memory that wasn't fully stable and crash the benchmark, after which you can't run the benchmark any longer. Like, after one crash, it just gives up on you. So I'd restart, go into the BIOS, tweak a few memory settings, and go back to grinding Time Spy and just rerun. And after several hours of doing that, I ended up with 6,665 points. And right now, that's good enough to be in third place for this stage. The problem is I'm running Samsung D-Die memory, which basically means these memory settings right here, which are it was 3540, yeah, 3538 with 14, 18, 18, 28 timings. That is horrifically loose. That is terrible. For comparison, like if I was running B-Die, you would expect that to be like 12, 12, 12 at the very least, or 11, 11, 11, 28. But yeah, so ridiculously hard to get this running. And the memory, like, I tried running CL13. That's not happening. It just doesn't like that. Can't get CL13 to boot at all. Like, it won't even post. I can run the memory at 3600, but then I lose the command rate here, which you can see my command rate for that. This submission is 1T. For my 3600 memory, which I can get running at 14, 19, 19, 28. For 3600, that has to be 2T, and the like, maybe if I reran 3600 over and over and over and over and over again, it might end up scoring higher than this. I'm not sure. I still have to do testing. There's still 4 days and 15 hours left to go in the competition, so I might end up doing that. So yeah, not entirely. Yeah, I mean, I'll keep trying, but I don't really have high hopes, because if you compare my score to other people's score, like here, the leader of the first stage, he's running 1800. No, he's running 3680. Yeah, looks like 3680 at 12, 11, 11, 28. Timings with 180 TRFC compared to my 410, which I don't know. For some reason, I can't get low TRFC on any DDR4. There must be something I'm doing wrong in that aspect. Oh yeah, he's running 180 with 2T, which the 2T thing is apparently... So there's a discussion on Hardware Bot about Gigabyte motherboards right now due to this competition. And the command rate being stuck at 2T just seems to be a motherboard thing. And actually, you can't see that because my stupid head is over it. There. As you can see, 2T command rate right there. So move myself back into the picture. So you're basically stuck at 2T at 3600, but the thing is, his timings are way better than mine. And the other thing is how I was talking about the variance in Time Spy. I really, really doubt this is the maximum score for these settings. I think if he probably has a backup that is a lot higher, because if he just reruns at these settings, I expect that score, like, it should be pretty easy to break 6,700. I think. I'm not sure, because, like, with the benchmark being as variable as it is, I don't really have a good idea of how much memory fine-tuning actually does for its performance. It's that, like, yeah. So it's been a pretty rough start, and the thing is, there's 4 days left, and this is probably not the best RAM. Like, not the best kit of RAM that's going to show up in this competition. And even then, most B-die memory sticks should be able to run those kinds of settings. So I fully expect to get completely obliterated in a couple, like, you know, in a few days. So yeah, no chance. Basically, what I'm trying to say is I have no chance of staying third, much less winning the competition. But hey, there is still the lucky prize draw, and it is a good way to, you know, get in some practice. Though I might get lucky, and my new set of RAM, which I might get lucky, and my new set of RAM arrives just in time for me to get a few scores in. But for this first stage, because the thing is, if you want to win one of these competitions, you have to submit. You have to submit for, and you know what? Just screw it. We'll just throw that off the screen. You have to submit for stage 1, which is Time Spies, stage 2, which is Geekbench 3 Multicore, stage 3, which is X265, and XTU. So you have to submit for all these stages, and basically the only way to get a guaranteed first place is to score first place in every single one of the stages. That's like the only way you're going to get first place, for sure. I guess if you got first place in 2, 3, 4, and then weren't at the very bottom of stage 1, you might have a chance at getting first, like actually getting a podium. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to stay even in the top 10, depending on how many more people turn up to the competition in the next 4 days. Let's hope they all forget, except I did just, announce that the competition is a thing. And I think at this point I'm rambling way too much. So one last thing. Actually, no, we're not going to talk about that. That will be its own video. And we can talk about that when I do that video. So that's... Oh, wait, I forgot about something. Right, so one last thing. No. Oh, right, no. Oh, yeah, no. Ugh. We're ending here. We are actually ending. Okay. So, let's do the usual. Thank you for watching. Like, if you liked the video, of course. I'm not telling you to like it if it was bad. I mean... You can voice your opinion in the comments about that. Like, share, definitely share. Sharing actually helps a ton because that's how new people discover the channel, and that's how the subscriber count grows. Share, comment, which I did just say, and do please consider donating either through PayPal or Patreon or buying a shirt. As these are now available, there is a link down in the description to the Patreon and the shirts and the PayPal. It's all in one link, so you can just click on that, and then it should take you to that. And that will be fixed for this video. For some past videos, I still need to update that link. Good job, me. I broke that by accident. Well, not by accident. I forgot. Well, no, it was an accident because I forgot how it was like. Anyway, that doesn't matter. You don't care. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.